Hello and welcome to Partyline Chat. My name is Michael Finney. Welcome to the program. Got some great guests today. We're going to be talking about media on the blockchain. I'm going to let the guests introduce themselves. Go ahead and talk a little about yourselves and tell us where you're from, what you do, what you like, and we'll move along.
Is that the room where I jump in and say hello? I'm River.
Yep.
Hi, I'm River. I am Australian. I live in Brazil. What else about me? I don't know. I'm on Twitter. Yeah, go on. Who's next?
Hi all. I'm Terrence. I go by TS Moreau on all the things. I do NFT art. At least that's kind of what I'll be concerned with anyway here. You can find me on Async Art, Rarible, and pretty soon on Vive or Vive or however that's pronounced.
Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, or you might know me as Scott C Business on basically every single platform. I just review blockchain, social, integrated platforms, and crypto monetized platforms. Do interviews with the execs from those companies, and just explore lots of different things about blockchain.
I just hide behind a bag on my head on Twitter. Bag it. Hello.
That's Brian. So let's move along and talk about content. I think everybody here is a content producer of one kind or another. So I think the hot thing right now is NFT, right? Non-fungible tokens. Would everybody agree on that? We can kind of jump into things there.
It is definitely a hot button thing at the moment.
That and gas fees, yes.
Yeah. The two very tightly intertwined. So Scott, what's as a sort of cover of the space? What are you seeing sort of from the high level of like the NFT world at the moment? What does it sort of sound and look like to you covering?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't probably diving into it as much as everyone else has, but one thing that I thought was really interesting that just came out the other day was Cause.tv now allows you to mint NFTs of your videos, and then you can sell your video ownership essentially to someone else who would get the rewards from that video if they were to buy the NFT off of you. So I'm definitely seeing a lot of like interesting ways that they're being used on different social platforms. But yeah, I don't have I'm not super deep into the NFT space yet.
So sort of as a non-content producer as well, Brian, at least from like the artistic perspective or what have you, what does the NFT world kind of look like to you and like the sort of loud outside like marketing view?
I guess I'll be the party pooper. I don't really get it. And I would not spend any sort of value really on like a computer file art, not JPEG.
Yeah.
So I'm here to be converted.
Sure.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So
Brian, it seems to be like a rich man's game.
Yeah. Well, there's aspects of that.
But so is regular art. So.
Well, yeah. Did
ironic you ever, most artists when they come up like hate the elite class, but then they go to Art Basel and so on.
Yeah, what is Art Basel?
It's an art. It's a very world renowned art week of. It's like a show, but it's like a week long type of deal in Miami.
Oh, so they still go to exhibit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So did you ever, when you were younger, or anyone, I guess, and this River, this is where you can tell us we're all dumb guys. But did you ever collect action figures or like baseball cards or anything like that when you were younger?
My mum used to collect, those Beanie Babies, the Beanie Bears.
Did she make money?
She still has about 1 million of them, I swear.
Older.
There's like huge cabinet full of these Beanie Baby things, and like she used to trade them back in the day, and they were worth a lot of money. Like some of these, they have like the mutations of the Beanie Babies, and some of them are going for like $1,000 for this little, weird, bizarre toy. But anyway, that's I think as far as I get with.
And I'm sure to some degree she's got a story that's attached to each one.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. They all have like a little separate meaning, or she bought them because of like they have a number behind them, or I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I think maybe someone will jump in here and tell me that that the high end art market is defensible in the opposite sense that Brian was bringing up. But I don't think. I think most of us are closer ideologically to the Beanie Babies and things than to we're walking into the gallery market and we're high end artists and all of this. I mean that might be nice. I can't pretend I didn't know what Art Basel was. Goodness, So for my part, the interesting end of it is that storytelling part. There's a lot of stuff in the scene at the moment about using these things for investments and whatnot, and I'm sure that will be a use case. I can't speak to it, however, but the part that I can is the creation of a sort of different form of value, I guess. That is what you described with your mother about the Beanie Babies. That there is this, she still has
sentimental value. Yeah,
precisely. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure that, I'm sure some of them she looks at and goes, oh, why did I? But I'm sure, many of them, she looks at and is still, very warm-hearted about. And it's like, oh, I remember that one and this time and this thing.
Absolutely.
For me, that's much more a reasonable value proposition surrounding it, because exactly like you say, Brian, what, I want to buy a JPEG? Why? Yeah.
I think that today people are struggling to figure out where to put their money because, the US financial system is kind of just a huge mess right now. And, they're really, I think for the past, especially now, it's like that run. And the thing with the non-fungible tokens is that people are trying to find a place to put their money that might be safe. And there's not really anywhere that's literally, guaranteed that's going to be safe. Like if you put your money in gold, maybe that might be the safest option because, especially physical gold or silver or whatever, long term. But it's that kind of run towards I need to put my money behind something. And then that ends up with all, these kind of cryptocurrency crazes and the non-fungible tokens in that sense as well. Running to try and find somewhere that your money might be safe in the long term. But, it's just a kind of crazy world right now.
Here's a couple of thoughts I had about NFTs and some of the issues with it, kind of building off of what Brian's talking about. So it's I don't want a digital image that basically, there's no guarantee that doesn't exist somewhere else. So if we had platforms for content creation that were on the blockchain that you could basically export straight to the blockchain as an NFT, then that amps up the integrity of that content for me personally. I think that it improves it. Right now,
do you mean extracting from the blockchain, correct?
No, I do not. No, I do not.
Oh no, so forgive me, I didn't I did not follow.
Okay, so I'm saying we need a Photoshop that is built on the blockchain.
Oh, okay, I see.
Right.
Okay.
And then that would
Adobe can't even build Photoshop for Linux.
Okay, I know. But these are all speculative ideas for me right now.
I'm just angry about it.
So, in this situation, you would be able to export your content straight to the blockchain. It would not exist anywhere else. It could not exist anywhere else. So then that raises the integrity bar for me.
The entire system exists within that infrastructure.
Correct. Yeah. Right now, you've got people making art that exists elsewhere and then uploading it to that. So really, it's kind of operating like a certificate of authentication, right? Not as much as a real unique instance of artwork.
So
I think.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think to Brian's point, though, like for me, I'm not super interested in investing in art, but luckily there's a lot more than just that. So like what I brought up right at the beginning of this, NFTs aren't just for art anymore. You can now mint like a video into a unique NFT that someone could invest in order to earn rewards that you would otherwise generate because you sold your NFT that represents a video. So it's not just art. It's like it's creating different functionality. And I think also when video games start to use this for like skins and everything, like we're already seeing for blockchain based games, but into like regular video games, I guess like Fortnite and things like that, then that will be a much different use case that I think is really interesting to focus on.
So for Mike,
sorry.
oh no, go ahead, River. Excuse me.
No, you go ahead.
Mike, I think you were saying something earlier about like the integrity of the system and where things come from. So in the sense, Scott, that you were describing of people purchasing or minting their videos, I think it behooves us a tad to be a little clearer about what that means. Because I think it gets a little bit to both what Mike and Brian are getting at. Because in this particular case, they're not really, they are purchasing the video in a certain way, but they aren't really purchasing rights to it. A bunch of other people can certainly view it. What they're purchasing, and correct me if I've misunderstood, seems to be that stake in the person's creative future.
Exactly.
For sure. There's an aspect of that, but I think that in that particular case, there are better models for investing in an artist than buying artwork that is not truly, one of a kind.
If we start talking about the artwork side of things, and we can consider other platforms, if you think of something like a video platform, let's say Streamanity, just for example.
Let's just say Streamanity.
Let's just say Streamanity. If we had, a token behind, let's say the numpties, and you believe that the numpties, long term would be, a profitable venture, then you might buy a non-fungible token in the name of the numpties, and that would be, you would be a part of their profit share every single time that they make a future video. And I mean, you could trade those tokens as well to someone else who might want a bigger share or whatever. But I think that's an interesting avenue to start, kind of investing directly in newer personalities or newer artists or whatever the platform might be. I think that there is certainly a very, very interesting avenue that needs to be explored. I think that when we're looking at this artwork kind of thing, the craze right now, it is something that's very, very new, but it's kind of showing a potential use case to something where it could be applied better. And I think that's interesting to look out for.
I love the idea of being able to tokenize a brand or tokenize a group of people. I think that is totally legitimate. I just don't necessarily see that as a one-to-one congruent use case
with NFTs.
With what NFT is trying to push. Yeah. So like, in terms of BSV, like the stuff happening with Run, you can do some of both of those things if you wanted to.
Yeah.
As well as a ton of the other token minting projects that are in development on BSV, and I think that that's awesome. As far as like monetizing the content or monetizing the brand, those offer different levels of participation for the people that would want to participate, in the brand or just that content. So that's a real benefit because it creates more granular options.
So other than the because a lot of this is sort of design issues outside the framework of NFTs themselves. There's a lot of this logic that can certainly be programmed in due to them. I don't know where BSV is at with their stuff, but yeah, I certainly know that as far as the like I say, the design logic of it goes. The NFT conversation has introduced all of this now, because functionally speaking, we could do this with tokens before, but a lot of the logic wouldn't have been on chain in the same. So the fact that this is getting out there, just at least via the art, I don't know, the Ethereum as a platform has a lot of different quirks about it. but as a sort of experimental base. Like there's that platform Roll that a lot of the Ethereum artists are putting their social money on. So Mike, when you were talking about that dichotomy or that relationship between brand identity and content and levels of buy-in, it's been really interesting for me to watch some of that. I hadn't quite put it in those terms, but you say that and I go, I think I've seen some of that play out a little bit, where if there's enough interest in the content, then if people are invested enough in that, then you can develop the brand. And I've certainly been tempted. Personally, I'm not a big enough name to do that yet, and I've come to that recognition myself, obviously. As far as saying like, if I get there, then I can take that next step of brand building. But for now, I'm trying to hook folks with content. So as far as that, I do see folks sort of putting the cart before the horse occasionally. And it isn't to say that it doesn't work. You'll find that the form can push the content like that sometimes. But I think there is a real good balance point to be achieved between the two. Where you pull folks in with the other, and then you offer them more investment. Okay. Apologies. So yeah, what are you guys working on, River, for NFTs and projects on BSV and whatnot?
Streamanity specifically. So you're doing ops over there, right? Operations.
Yep. So I'm CIO of Streamanity. We're not doing a token specifically for Streamanity just yet. It's just something that we have spoken about, obviously. We're using obviously the Run protocol as well, and it's not quite ready for all of the use cases that we envision just yet. So we're eventually we would really, really like to have Streamanity tokens and potentially even allow specific users to create their own token for themselves or for their show or for whatever. But we're not quite there yet. So
it's been really interesting watching all the different and again I'm mostly responding to a very small portion of the NFT market. But even there, the vibrancy and the energy and the level of experimentation, folks playing with programmatic mechanics of all kinds and really trying to differentiate in various ways. For myself, I was lucky enough to find this platform async.art, which I was lucky enough to, like I say, find early on. And it did, because Brian, I had, and again, I'm not against it very much, like I think you mentioned. You can buy a JPEG if you want. I mean, I've never shut that down. And I've bought a few myself. I've sold a few myself. It's all fine and good. But it wasn't particularly like the most exciting idea in the world to me from just a mechanical perspective. So I found this, async.art about, I don't know, maybe March, about a year ago now, of last year. And they were doing something where their contract, their NFT contract is a little bit more customized than the standard Ethereum thing. So where you can change some variables within the contract and the art changes. And then there's a sort of a group dynamic there where multiple people can change variables and therefore make multiple changes.
Can you talk about those changes a little bit? Because we've seen Moreau has put out creation recently, and I'm not. I don't want.
So he was early. He was the first guy. So the async folks were fans of the crypto art scene. It's sort of how they got the idea at all, and reached out to a bunch of the veteran OG artists, including Pac, a lot of money, Blackbox.art, a bunch of folks who did the sort of as now has been termed the sort of genesis run of art. And so Pac did this thing that was, I think, really well illustrated the formal potential of the site, which was the point of going to good artists at first. His piece was called The Tribe. Maybe I can link it here, but it's easy to find. Async.art. Go to their little search box, enter PAK, Pac, or Tribe. Take your pick. And it was a sort of mandala thing done in 3D with a whole bunch of layers, I think a dozen at least, 20. So each of these layers are individual tokens with variables which change the state of the final piece of the art. That final piece of the art is still sold, quote unquote, as a JPEG, so to speak, but it's an updatable JPEG. The JPEG changes. So that extra bit of mechanics I found really captivating. So PAX the Tribe, it demonstrated as a sort of mandala-ish thing, different levels and 3D models form the mandala radiating out from the center. There's a face in the center. It can be a circle in the center. The various bits of the 3D mandala, so to speak, can change, as well as the colors and all of this. And it's really demonstrated some of the emerging properties that form around this, in the sense that one person will make a change, and then the rest of the tribe will come along and make some changes in response. And that emergent back and forth has really been played with a lot on the platform. It's sort of, I think, the big value add. And you can do it a whole bunch of ways. Someone did, oh goodness, was it Bruce the Goose, I think? It have been Defiant Squid. Did a hex grid where everyone could buy a single hexagram on it, or a single hexagon on it, except that when you change the colors of your hexagon, some of the opacity would spread to the others. So you could influence the color of someone next to you, and it became this, again, collective spread, sort of flock of birds, very low res flock of birds kind of thing. And I think actually, just speaking now, that metaphor is pretty good. Flock of birds, kind of collective expression, kind of. I'm a comics guy. I've done indie comics and whatnot at a small press level for a long time. So I'm doing a comic there. Where you can kind of choose some of the figures, the dialogue, change the ending of each thing. I've got a cutoff date so that at a certain date, whatever changes are there influence the next issue and all. So yeah, and people are doing.
So you crowdsourcing the endings? Is that what you're saying?
It's still, it's still a lot of drawing. Like I don't draw 12 different endings because that's a lot of drawings and a lot of writing, and it still has to all make sense.
Of course.
At least to some degree.
Sounds like it's expanding on on choose your own adventure, but you can also choose your own characters and your own dialogues. But it's still, you have a list of characters and dialogues that you're pulling from.
Certainly, yeah, and so and that's been fun. From just to kind of go a little bit, zoom in just a tad on that. That's been really fun in the sense that trying to remember that it is an interactive piece. I joke that async is actually a games platform. It's a very slow, expensive games platform, but it actually is one. So offering players the choices, so to speak. Which reins me in as a writer and creator as well. Like offering a range. The latest piece that I did was a sort of meta commentary. The whole extended universe is a meta commentary, but was a meta commentary with a little market scene, which sort of represented the crypto art space. So I allowed some of the tokens, the control over the main characters to quote unquote walk around the market and comment on the various things, which of course represented folks or movements broadly, generically in the crypto art scene. So regardless of what I think of any of those types of art or what have you, now it's out of my hands what the characters think and all of that, and the ending the same. In fact, I would have preferred the good guys won at the end of this one because I was looking forward to doing the interrogation scene, but the owner chose the bad guy to get away. So next issue will be chase scene instead.
That's how it pans out.
Yeah, exactly. It's out of my hands at this point. Yeah.
Let's pivot to monetization a little bit in general, because we've got somebody who is helping to monetize a platform, and we've got somebody who is definitely experienced in exploring a wide variety of platforms and discovering how monetization works on them and making content about it. I don't have a direct question, but I do want to hear some of the pain points and some of the strong points regarding content monetization and running the platform. So either Scott or River, go ahead and chime in on that.
Yeah, so I do have quite a bit of experience in monetizing my content online.
Right, you're a producer too, correct?
It depends on I suppose your audience a lot. You need to specifically have content that people are willing to pay for. It doesn't. I think at the stage that we want to get, where kind of everything is slightly monetized, we're not quite there yet, and people still have to kind of pull out their wallets physically to want to pay, and kind of go to that effort to want to pay for what you're producing. So with my experience as a user of Streamanity, and I think I'm actually still the top earner on that site, which is quite sad.
Crushing it.
So we need to change that as soon as possible. But I had very niche content, very direct, for this very specific area of when I was doing those technical analysis videos for BSV, very, very unique, very niche, very specific. And also it helped that I was the only one in the space who was doing it at the time. So, there was a specific demand directly for BSV users who already had BSV. So in that sense, it was kind of like the perfect platform, and it just flowed, and it made a lot of sense. But I do see a lot of other users kind of struggling to monetize their content, specifically when it's not in that kind of direct niche. If it's beyond, specifically speaking about Streamanity, if you're not content that is actually BSV related, whether it's, I don't know, interviews or chats. I think the most monetized content is like interviews with Craig Wright, or it's like a numpties chat where they discuss, BSV in kind of all of its aspects and all of its details. Or, for me, it was technical analysis. And I think beyond that, you get someone who's really, really popular, like Stefan Molyneux, and you get him and he puts videos on Streamanity. And you see that he doesn't really get the response that he does on YouTube or whatever, because he does have those free options, and he's not, he hasn't specified that his content is there, it's to be monetized. I think now he even uploads his videos just for free. He doesn't even put like a cent on them like he used to. But that monetization of content right now, especially at the very, very beginning, I think no matter what the platform is, whether you're using there's the OnlyFans, or there's the what's the other one called?
Patreon.
I had a blank. Yes, Patreon. And we are monetizing specifically your content there for your niche clients, for your niche kind of needs. And so the important thing is, I think, is when you're starting to monetize your content, is that there needs to be that specific niche, and there needs to be people who are willing to pay for it too. I think that it's really important that as soon as you go into that kind of monetization, you already have to have done the free work of building that audience and have that trust built. Because if you're expecting to get people to kind of pull out their wallets and jump over hoops and to get into kind of that area, that access, and to view that monetized content, there needs to be that certain level of trust before that, where you've already built up your audience, you've already built up your kind of exposure. And because at the end of the day, it's not easy, as it will be in the future. It's not easy for people to pay for online content. There's always hoops, and we're talking about global markets. Half the time I go and try to buy a movie, and I can't because I'm in Brazil and a credit card won't work. And it's there's still that kind of barrier, no matter what aspect we're looking at, whether it's BSV, whether it's fiat currencies or whatever the basis is.
Absolutely,
there's still always those hoops to jump through. So you need to have, as a content creator, you've really got to have the trust of your followers and have already kind of built that niche need.
Let's drop down into a dichotomy that exists in crypto too, which is, something like BSV is very much pay to play. You can offer things for free, but then you've got these other platforms that are proof of stake. So then they're distributing coin to users on a regular basis, and they're able to generate activity and profitability for content creators. And I think Scott has a lot of experience there, and also probably had some issues with some of the BSV platforms in terms of being able to drive traffic and monetize his stuff there, because it is pay to play, and he is offering that same content or similar content in places where people aren't going to have to do that.
Yeah, so I'm kind of the opposite here because everything I post is free, and I take the approach of like just being backed up everywhere, being on every single platform, mass distribution. And last month, for example, I made almost $3,000 just on 9 different platforms that I was posting on. And I don't have to ask anyone to pay anything, and they're not donations either. It's platform-based rewards. So I think it's in a time, especially now in the last year, more people are like wanting to save money than they are, looking for new ways to spend money. So instead, I think it's much more reasonable that, when you have a platform that's able to somehow distribute rewards, to ask people just to, participate, just instead of watching on YouTube, watch my library video, and they might make a little bit of LBC for watching, and then I'll make LBC for them watching as well. Everyone wins, and you're supporting like an alternative platform as well.
Do you think
that's really interesting?
Oh, go ahead, River.
Sorry. No, you go, Michael.
Well, I was just going to ask if you think that's sustainable, right? So you've got these people that are funding these platforms, and they're kind of like investing capital into this to get liquidity in there, and then get velocity downstream for the users, or from the users, I should say. That has hit some walls, right, in terms of Steemit. And I'm not even talking about the buyout of Steemit when it transferred hands, but I just mean like just the nature of their particular coin setup, where they've got a stable coin, and then they've got the other side of things too. So we see that their coin value fluctuates, and that's not so much the issue, I guess, as that it certainly isn't worth as much as it was in the past. And despite that fact, you're doing well on these other platforms that have perhaps similar models, but maybe it's just that, like, if it is a proof of stake type of system, as a content producer, you kind of have to continually move to where the hot hand is. And that's where a lot of, the audience is as well. So they're generating critical mass there, and that critical mass continues to move. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like the whole reason that Hive exists is because that they were unhappy with what happened with Steem. And you're right about like the value, though. I think a lot of altcoins had majorly inflated values because of the Bitcoin run in 2018. That's when Steem was worth like something like $11. And I mean, since then, obviously now it's only worth like something like 22 cents. But there's still great ways to earn. And I would just say the problem is you can't just be doing like one. You have to be spread out and using many different platforms. But that's also good for, dealing with potential censorship, because none of these platforms are censorship proof, but they are censorship resistant, and exponentially more than legacy platforms.
Right.
So, even if it's not just to earn money, I like using all these platforms just as a good way to be backed up and have all my content, distributed through many, many different avenues. Whether, something gets cut off, it's not going to be a big issue for me. Or, if I stop earning on one of these platforms, again, it still wouldn't be a huge issue for me. So it really depends how much effort you're going to put into distributing and being on a lot of platforms. But I know realistically, most people are only going to use a couple.
It's really interesting. I've gone and I've seen Library before, but I haven't actually used it myself. So I need to look into that more. So you're actually earning, everything's kind of you're earning a token that fluctuates. Is that right? You're earning a volatile token.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and I mean, that's really interesting, actually. I can definitely see. What are the other platforms that you earn money on, Scott?
Yeah, so the 9 that I earn like the most on, that I track the most frequently, are Library, Hive, DTube, PublishOX, Read.cash, I think those are the main ones, and I guess SoMe.social, though I have some strife with them. I wouldn't fully recommend them, but I mean it's worth taking a look at.
Okay, interesting. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, and then also Brave Browser.
Writing.
I would recommend.
What kind of content is it? All writing, Scott?
I would say most of them support writing. Library is video focused, but they have blogging aspect to it, and you can post blogs. Hive has everything because it's just, it's like Steam, but they have a ton of different interfaces. So there's like videos, there's just like the blogging stuff, there's everything. PublishOX is strictly blogging, so that's but you can obviously embed videos and everything as well. Read.cache is mainly blogging as well, but again, you can embed videos. You can also do status posts. And then DTube is strictly video. So that's the only one that is only video.
There are a lot of these alternative platforms that are popping up, which is great. We definitely need alternatives, to get out of the little bubble that we're in with all this centralized nonsense. But there's not really any foolproof. You're right. It's really good to have all your content distributed on various different sites as well. And now, on any of these sites, are users actually paying you directly, or are they all user-based rewards?
They are all user-based rewards, but they can, tip people or donate if they want to. Library also offers paywalls if you want to do that. But I personally do not do that.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Very interesting.
Because I would actually end up making more money by just allowing them to view it and then making money from the platform. But the only caveat I would say with Library compared to a lot of the other ones is that eventually they will run out of LBC to give away, and they're in the midst of creating an ad model right now that people can opt into if they want to. And it would be sort of like how Brave Browser works, where it's like you can opt in even as the user as well. And they're also going to have a paywall option where you can, instead of paying, watch an ad. So there's a lot of different options that they're going to do for that.
So they're sort of operating on a bit of a treasury model at the moment?
Yeah, basically. Yeah. But the token is going up so much in value that they're just slightly scaling it as it's going to kind of make it last.
It's on a curve to match, yeah.
For now. But I mean, it's gone from 2 cents last year, like this time last year, to now it's like 15 cents or something like that. So
wow.
So they're doing very well, and they have over 10 million users, I think, now, with over like 1 million active daily. I think that was the last time I checked, but they're doing very, very, very well. So it's been very exciting.
Amazing.
Cool.
And you're kind of a full spectrum content producer too. You do audio, you do editorial, you do video.
Yeah, I do everything. Takes so much longer, but I write like a full blog almost with every single video that I do, and I try to post every day or two. Mm-hmm. And then I post all my interviews and stuff on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that stuff as well.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Do you earn money off Spotify as well, or no?
No. I only started doing it more recently, so it's still pretty early stages. But right. I mean, ideally in the future. I got my first YouTube check this month, so that was exciting.
Hey, congrats.
How much was it? How much was the YouTube check? I'm curious, because the first time I got one, it was $7.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, mine is like it's minimum $100, and then they pay it out, so it was $100.
Nice. Yeah, no, I never got the $7, but yeah, God, crazy YouTube.
True.
Funny. That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's a content mill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, where there's the option to have your finger, not maybe a terrible metaphor, but your fingers in multiple pies. Where that anti-fragility can be created on a personal level, on a like, hey, all my stuff is safe, kind of level. Yeah, absolutely. It's so nice now that there are options available, sort of across the board. It's just sort of raising awareness and allowing the various platforms again that will create that awareness and allow for people to connect and allow the bridges across. And exactly like you say, River, the content, so that people can find that there's something of a community or a dialogue, or at the very least something that they like going back to every day. I think, Scott, that's wouldn't you say? I think that's important for. I mean, I'm not one, but I think it would for like content producers to be regular, so that people know that they can go back to you.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and that's definitely important. And I think a lot of people, when I see them commenting, they say like, "Oh, I came from this other platform to see you talking about this on this platform." So there's a lot of people who are ready to explore and find different platforms. And I mean, and I don't expect anyone to do even like remotely anywhere what I'm doing, but on average, I'm posting on about like 40 platforms every like day or two. But it's all the same content across all of them, more or less.
Do you have that automated? How much of that is manual for you?
Basically, all of it is manual. But yeah. So it takes me like 2 hours to post a video.
Do you find? Forgive if I go down the rabbit hole on this. Do you find that? And Mike, I think you might be able to speak to this too, or River. That content creators or platforms, excuse me, that content platforms sort of resist the ability to integrate like that, so that you can post across multiple things.
Absolutely. This broadcast right now is streaming on a handful of channels, and then in terms of like I've sent it out to Clubhouse too. Nobody's hanging out there, but at the same time, like to be able to distribute a stream like this, which for the first year and a half of doing it, we was exclusively live, and then I perceived some value in making it available as audio only, just because Mike and Space nagged me enough, so then I finally did it. And then bringing YouTube in, basically I'm able to send the stream over there, so then I get the file and I'm able to have that whole stream file, which I think is useful at the very least.
Yeah, and I think there are platforms that are starting to try to integrate more and more. Like how I was saying with DTube, you can post to Hive and Steam from DTube, so they have that integration. Or like how Read.cache and PublishOX allow you to embed videos from library rather than just like the default like YouTube, Vimeo, etc. So they're definitely making strides to have more integration. And I mean, ideally, hopefully, there will also be like tools like similar to what we have for legacy platforms to be able to schedule and do stuff like that. But I think the only reason they aren't built yet is simply because there's just not enough people using all these different platforms, and everything is changing so frequently because a lot of them are in beta, etc. Right. So I think once things start to firm up and less frequent changes and there's more audience for them to actually want to go and build, we are seeing some people doing like third-party stuff and building for like specific platforms, but nothing that I've seen that is like cross a bunch of different like decentralized platforms. But I'd love to see it, and I'm definitely looking for that constantly.
What's really interesting too is that a traditional platform like YouTube put the bar higher for monetization over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
At the same time, all of these decentralized platforms that allow for monetization are coming up and competing with their dominance. And YouTube is dominant. They do control the video space online. But I think that's interesting that they chose to do that at the same time that we're seeing all these other very open platforms come up.
I've started to notice the shift in whereas like 2 years ago, a creator that was doing the thing where you do 4 YouTube videos a day, and then you mirror that on BitChute or mirror that on DLive, et cetera. I'm starting to see a shift where if let's say they do 4 videos, that's like their daily workload. They'll do either 4 on YouTube and then do exclusives for each individual platform. So like, you'll do like 3 on YouTube and then like 1 on DLive. You'll still add the 3, but you'll add your 1 exclusive, and then you'll do your mirror on BitChute and then add your exclusive for BitChute only, and so on and so forth. And that seems to, just by watching a few creators do that, that seems to drive up, their numbers across all platforms. Because if I watch you on YouTube, and I've been watching you for like 4 years, and you just start moving one video to a different platform, it's nothing for a user to subscribe and just
click over,
grab that one video that they miss. I'm still waiting for an app that just like integrates all these sites together. So when I subscribe to Terrence, I just get his stuff from wherever he exists. Everywhere. Yeah. I despise the feed pages on every. I don't care what site it is. Like if you have a feed page, I don't look at it. I just search for what I'm looking for.
What does that mean?
Like you go to YouTube home. Like it surprised me that people still go to YouTube's homepage.
Oh, right.
Like my bookmark goes straight to my subscriptions, and even that kind of bothers me. Where I'm just, I have lots of issues with the way YouTube deals with channels and subscribing to things. For example, I subscribe to some dude, and he decides to schedule 20 videos on a Sunday. Well, my feed now has 20. And that's so retarded that I don't understand how that gets past all their QA people. Where so like I want to see something where and it's something I would pay probably a pretty good deal of money to see it, is that where if I subscribe to you, I can choose which videos I subscribe to, and I can get them from all platforms in one place. Because, for example, if you're a creator, you probably have a couple actual shows, right? Like you might have a show where you do a TV show review, where you review, your favorite TV show. And then another show you might do, another theme of your content might be where you have interviews. Well, that's your interview show, And like YouTube doesn't know
subscriptions.
Yeah, sure. YouTube is so dumb they can't even make a playlist subscription. Like it's so insulting as a consumer, because I'm not really a content creator. I just shitpost on Finney's radio show here. But the idea that I can't. I'm looking at my homepage right now, and I'm looking at there's one guy here. I like his productivity videos, but I don't want to see him play piano ever, not ever. And just Linus Tech Tips, another channel where I don't want to see anything.
Do either of those guys? I don't watch either channel. Do either of them tag their stuff?
Oh, I don't know.
YouTube has tagging, right?
That's far too much work. They do, but it's far too much work. You know what I mean?
For that? Well, this is what I was getting at. Is some automated thing. Yeah, good.
By tag, for sure. Yeah.
Like you click on that, and the little thing pops up saying see videos only with this tag. Subscribe to.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably build an app where you're using some straight Boolean logic with tabs attached to an account to pull the correct stuff in. But here's the thing: is I look at all these other platforms I see, because honestly, technology is mostly a lazy industry, right? So every YouTube competitor literally is just YouTube. And if it's what they add is the greatest minds of our generation add some emoticons to make it better, or they add like DLive. DLive is basically YouTube with some some coin that is attached to an account where you can send some coins to your favorite content person during their live stream. They have something called a treasure box, where if you're viewing somebody, the creator opens it during the live stream, and it gives everybody money. But the functionality.
So they need to gamify better. Is sort of. I mean, you got to the word before I did.
You're just ignoring. You're just ignoring the audience. Period. Like the treasure chest.
Justin Sun bought it.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
No, he ruined it just like Steam, bro.
I mean, I'm awesome as in hilarious,
Okay, fair enough.
But no, it's just every iteration I've seen where somebody is like, I'm going to make it better YouTube, it's not better for the audience. Rumble. The only thing better about Rumble is that you don't have an algorithm. The only thing better about Twitch is like the little like subscriber features, but they benefit the creator, not the viewer. Like the viewer feels like he's getting a gift when he gets five new emoticons that he can spam in a I don't want to curse, but he can spam in a chat. But it's just like, that's not like that's not about making the viewing experience of content better. Like it's like it's just making things better for the creator because they get to.
So what do you put that down to, Brian? I mean, because it sounds like
code reuse, lazy ideas,
okay.
just like people are because for example, every iteration, people don't like Twitter. Okay, for a number of reasons. You might not like Twitter because it's censoring people that you follow. You might not like Twitter because it's not censoring enough people. You might not like Twitter because the algorithm, the fact that every 3 months you got to go and change your feed to chronological order, because apparently Twitter can't do the right thing, which is ironic, set their site and get up and leave. Like Twitter should just be like a bunch of people that are just making sure the site works and is live, and no new features. You have a block.
Oh, what would you tell the shareholders then?
Exactly.
Hey, Brian,
so like,
move your mic away from your mouth, hair, because you're peeking out.
Sorry.
Oh,
but all that is like every and I mean this with every single Twitter alternative I've seen is like it's just the same. And some put a cost to do things. Some are colored green and not blue. One was colored red and it got banned. But all these like little like posts and mines is kind of the same thing, where it's like a Facebook/Twitter kind of combo looking deal. It's just like, what I mean by that is that like I haven't seen anybody like break the mold that YouTube has created. I haven't seen anybody break the mold that Twitter has created. Like,
do you think, Brian? Do you think at this point, and maybe it's my lack of imagination on it, but do you think that there's any sort of like mechanical thing that could be done to overcome the momentum that YouTube has?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure there is. I'm not. I mean,
Like, is there a way to, like, is there a better designed thing that you can do that genuinely sort of dethrones that level of momentum and brand awareness?
Well, brand awareness is tough. You know what I mean? Like,
or at least forces them to change to keep up. Like, gets them to fucking do something.
Well, I just mean that, like, we can drop F-bombs now. Cool. So,
excuse me, Michael, am I not allowed to do that?
I'm trying to be polite. This show is so polite, and everyone like was like, "Oh no, you go ahead. No, you go ahead." so I'm trying not to curse today. But basically, to answer your question, like, I don't really know the answer to that question, but I do know.
What I was asking. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I do know that brand. The Lindy nature of a brand name is really hard to defeat. Like, when you set off to defeat Coca-Cola, you're basically just going to get bought by Coca-Cola.
Like, what's that old programming COBOL? Like, old programming software that's still used?
Right,
yeah, like, there's tons of legacy systems still around. Why does this exist?
I would argue that COBOL probably exists because of its stability in a specific niche. If you're doing and again,
so what form of stability does YouTube have? I mean, maybe it's not technological.
Google doesn't care; they lose money.
So
that's the only stability YouTube has, right? Like, Google bought them, and they don't make any money, and Google just kind of subsidizes them. And if you look at any other industry, you'll see a lot of that, where like somebody, Walmart buys a company kind of for like the Instagram, because like Walmart can't make it into Instagram because they're cringe, right? And anything Walmart, the brand, does on any Snapchat social media type deal is just going to be like cringy. So they buy bonobos, So that's what Google did with YouTube, is like they kind of bought it and they subsidize it because it is Like most of the time when you're talking about an online video, you're substituting the brand name YouTube for the online video you're talking. Like, I'm going to go watch a YouTube about it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Sure.
That is such a cultural integration at this point. It's going to take a lot. Like, a lot has to beat that. Right.
Yeah, but
like,
Brian, the platform innovation that you're looking for is occurring. These experiences that are new and revolutionary, in at least in an iterative sense, are occurring on stuff like Snapchat or on TikTok in stories. As far as video creators, I think that's the space. Again, like, are those people able
so I think what I was getting at is sort of the combination of what you guys were saying a little bit, because certainly all of that innovation is being done at the small scale everywhere, but seeing it not intermeshed with that existing momentum and that existing cultural power of people wanting to share and discuss and monetize. That seems a tragedy in its way, and the sort of the big boys standing in the way of what could be. This is what I was asking about. Like, so what are the mechanical options?
I don't think it's a mechanical thing. I think it's the nature of being a person, right? So, like for example, let's talk about NFTs real quick. So here's the way I view NFTs in general. I don't care if it's a video, a picture, whatever.
Sure.
If you have a brand, your product is your NFT. Okay, and so when you start off and nobody knows who you are, a lot of people do is they go out to Venice Beach. Not a lot of people, but like, for example, you go to Venice Beach and you start singing into an amplifier or karaoke, and you put a little sign there with your Instagram handle, maybe a Q code, and you just sing for free on the street. Or you go, like, there's a very famous place in Ireland where I think it's called like Busker, where like it's just a bunch of street musicians, right? So like,
didn't Rodrigo and Gabriella go out?
Yeah. I have no idea. But also, like, when you start, if you're a band, and like, most of the time you're probably going to start off your new band when you're in your teenage years. But if you're in a band and you're a teenager, you're probably giving away your tapes, right? Like, you're probably you're nowadays you're putting them on SoundCloud just to get them heard. All you, like, the money, the value you get back from your product, your token at that point is the view count, right? A lot of things, I think, that hasn't changed. Like, and so online, everything that happens in the real world is going to just happen online. And so online, it's always been the way to, like, do it for free, and then whatever your audience might be interested in, if that's a mug, a t-shirt, exclusive content, sticker packs, what have you, you add that to the free beacon that you put out, like, to the world.
Yeah.
So, like, to me, like, the NFTs are, I kind of like poo-poo it, because, like, a lot of them are just like, here's a picture.
Yeah, cash grab, sure.
Yeah. But, like, to me, it's just another product. If you're a brand, it's just but brands, like, tokens exist in real life. Like, if you are, I'm going to drop a gang sign, Jonathan Wilson's
representation of value.
Yeah, right. So Jonathan Wilson has a cool product brand called Gang Sign, and one of his tokens is his mug, and that's kind of the way I view, like, that whole.
Yeah, I got a bunch of stickers on my laptop. Same thing. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, as far as, like, you're not going to get, I don't think, argument from folks on the chat here, at least not me. In terms of what that sort of you heard me talk about it earlier, seeming mainstream, loud value proposition regarding it is when that purchase of the brand, when, like, the mug purchase allows me to interact with the person who made it in a new way. That's what excites me. And that's part of what in all of this.
The coolest iteration I've heard of an NFT is actually your comic book idea.
I mean,
that actually has value to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I thank you. I genuinely, man. That's what I was trying to do.
I'm also a comic book kid too, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll pitch you on another one. I'm curious what you think of this, because this is something that I looked at. And the portion of the comic world that I come from, I love superheroes, still do. But I like other things too. Just broad palette. But of course, there's most of the American industry is Marvel and DC, of course. I don't begrudge that. It is what it is. But there's a project, Ethmen, so their NFT thing is, so their JPEG, their sort of initial value proposition, is a picture of a wrapped action figure. Now that action figure doesn't actually exist. Obviously, it's a ginned up thing made in Photoshop, and it looks good. It looks real. Made to look like a packaged action figure. And then what you can do is you can send that off to a smart contract. It will quote unquote burn. We can talk about it. You can still find the JPEG, obviously. But the fun mechanical part is that the contract will then send you back another NFT that looks different. The only way to get it is to interact with that contract. That is I haven't done it myself, so I might be wrong about this bit, but my understanding is that it's expensive, so I haven't done it. It sends you back a picture of an opened package, as well as access to a 3D file of the action figure. So you can import it into various, we're talking about game things, like this exists right now. You can import it into Decentraland, CryptoVoxels, I think, maybe not CryptoVoxels because that's a voxel-based one, but I know Decentraland. So that's sort of like extra added thing. So where it's like, wait, I can not only buy your action figure, but I have to sit here and think like, oh, do I want to actually unpack it or not? I was never that guy in real life, but I knew people who were. You know what I mean? Right. I get that entirely. Yeah. So, Brian, does that? Yeah, exactly, Brian. Does that hold? And
anything that's interactive? Yes.
Yeah, I agree entirely. That's I could I'm happy to shit on all day the loud portions of the market. But for me, it's a lot more fun to try to search out the weird, cool, fun, edge case, bleeding edge projects that are doing fun, cool things. That's just more fun to talk about, honestly. Like art blocks. That's another one where literally everything they're programmatically is on chain. There's nothing off the chain. So what they're doing is offering a quote unquote limited edition collectibles out of generative art. So processing sketches, canvas sketches, and stuff like that. So an artist will set up, and it's mostly abstract stuff there. And I love that stuff in its way. Again, broad palette. So you'll get very abstract, designy patterning that no two are alike. Someone's doing a fractal generator, and he set it up so that you get all kinds of cool Rorschach stuff out of it. And all the computation, everything exists purely on chain. There's a version of it that they put out, just exactly like we're talking about, existing on multiple platforms, that they put out to IPFS and the standardized NFT Ethereum, which, you can talk about the pros and the cons of, but they do both. So nobody gets an identical thing. It's all limited edition. There's sort of somebody did a thing that looks like galaxies or singularities, where all the colors and the patterns look different. That approach of all generative, no, not all generative, but unique, relatively speaking, with a mechanical interactive thing. I think that's where it's got to go. Honestly, and quite frankly, I genuinely think it's just an extension of the same brand awareness stuff that we've been talking about. How do you interact with your people? How do you provide value? How are you worth it? All of these things are just new tools for it. So even at that really small scale, where art blocks on Ethereum is guys, we're all on chain, and we do your standardized things so that our little JPEG snapshot of our on-chain thing shows up in your standard wallet too. So that the loud portion of the market we can integrate with, and then the cutting edge shit we can. The cutting edge stuff we can still do. And I'm happy to speak poorly, to throw shade on other portions of the market. But Pac's out there doing his thing too. As well as a bunch of the other high end portions of things. I know y'all are more of the content creation end of things, and that's a loud market. in and of itself. I imagine mechanical differentiators and interaction. I can't imagine, like, my mind goes to like Patreon rewards, and like the various emergent structures that have happened there, and again, how you provide value. Yeah, no, it's just more tools, which is so great to see.
Dean, and like I think like, yeah, basically it's just the tool. If you're a content creator, you're going to do the same kind of like salesmanship type of deal before the internet. You're just going to bring that into the internet and then just add tools to your toolbox. Like I remember, like, a year ago, I was like, Mike, why aren't we on Restream? Just do it all at once or whatever. Maybe it was over a year ago. I don't know. But I think that you have to just throw spaghetti at the wall. But I do like the idea, like I said, like I've been seeing people just do exclusive content for various platforms, and you can just go on Social Blade and like see their numbers go up. Well, if that other platform is on Social Blade, but either way. Are you Scott? Are you not on DLive because Jihan bought it?
No, it's just not a great platform in terms of like. Well, I'll give you a quick background of DLive. So DLive originally was on Steam, and then they left that community, and people were pretty upset. And then they started Lino blockchain, which they claimed was a completely independent thing, and that DTube was just a third-party thing on there. But when DLive was then bought by Justin Sun, they got rid of the Lino blockchain, so it clearly wasn't really independent of it.
Fair.
And then they moved to Tron, and they made it. I'm sure tons and tons of people who had points got screwed, because after a certain date, you weren't able to get your money back for that anymore. And they made the process really, really challenging for people in the U.S. Not so much outside of the U.S., but in the U.S. The restrictions were and still are: you have to full KYC, send them your ID. You have to have a minimum amount, which is $50. So if you had $49, you couldn't get your money out.
Interesting.
And the weirdest one was you had to have streamed. So if you put money in and you just wanted your money back or out, or just access to your funds, and you're not a streamer, you cannot access your funds on DLive. Still to this day.
That's
do they have any like minimum amount or anything? Or?
Yeah, they have a minimum amount. It's 4,250. The last time I checked, which is like about $50. So you can't withdraw unless you have at least $50.
No, I mean like on the video, like can you like just record 2 seconds of a stream and then pull out your $50?
Oh no! You have to stream 8 hours worth.
Okay, yeah. There you go.
On 3 separate occasions.
Oh, come on!
It's amazing.
That's insane.
And Theta,
humanities.
I have even more beef with. Theta's even worse, because Theta's a live streaming platform as well that a lot of people are getting excited about. But Theta, you can't withdraw at all for any reason. The only way to get your money out is to buy stuff. Or if you're a partner streamer, which is like beyond the original affiliate, the partner streamer, you might be able to get your money out, but it also says that it takes 45 days too. Though I've never spoken to anyone who's actually gotten money out of the platform aside from having to buy like random merch, which is the only things that they have.
Alex, you want to introduce yourself? I saw you pop in.
What's up, guys?
What's up, dude?
I'm Alex. I'm a designer, and I'm kind of into crypto. So,
are you making NFTs yet?
That's a great question. I haven't hopped on that train, but a lot of my buddies are right now. So they're making some cool shit and making some good money off of it too.
Like who? Name drop.
God, I don't know if it's anybody big. My buddy Andreas Zerkis is what he goes by. He's been making some. Who else?
Is he on BSV?
I don't think so.
Then we don't care.
Yeah,
So, I'm just kidding, Alex. Keep going.
No, Mike's put me on the spot. I'm trying to think.
You just came in here. I told you in Periscope to drop in, and then you did, and then you're like, "Oh, I got a microphone."
River, is Streamanity live streaming yet, or no?
No. So we actually built live streaming a long time ago.
Yeah, we talked about it last year.
Yeah, it's all basic. It was pretty much built, and we just decided that it wasn't quite where we wanted to head at this time. So,
Is that like a payment roadblock?
Yeah, I mean, it's a. There are quite a few ways that we discussed on how we're going to approach this, and it's there. It's ready. We can do it. We can, if we wanted to, we can launch live streaming tomorrow. But there are a few things with the wallet that we need to address first. And it's a big investment in the sense of the hosting. While we're still such a small platform,
right?
It's just not something that we're quite ready for just yet.
Inhibitively costly.
Yeah.
To do live streaming, I would say.
Yeah.
It's inhibitively costly in terms of preparation to produce live streaming.
Yeah.
Well.
And that's the thing as well. Like we were able to, we had all the tools ready. Like we were able to, jump on into, OBS and all that kind of stuff. Like it wasn't a big deal. It really wasn't a big deal to go forward, but it is extremely expensive to do it. And we didn't quite know how to address, we had many discussions on this, but addressing how the payments would work in real time. We don't have that kind of capability yet for the wallet. And it doesn't really make sense for us to have someone who is going to charge X amount and then, maybe not even fulfill those, minutes that were said. And it's just, we weren't ready for it. We weren't ready for the headaches yet.
That's fair.
Yeah.
No sense in doing something that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I mean, I don't have a streaming site, so I get it.
Alex.
Probably pretty hard.
We'll kick it back to you. If you had a chance to think a little more.
You got a name yet?
I was trying to be thinking about names. I wasn't. Sorry, I'm a little stoned, so.
No worries.
Hey, last time we talked to you, Alex, you had COVID.
Me too, Alex.
I'm good. I'm great. I got a new job recently.
Fantastic.
So I'm employed again.
Employed.
Which is doing design work, Alex? Employed doing the design stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a big dog.
Very good.
Yeah, I'm working with a enterprise marketing software company. They're called MRP, and they have a product called Prolytics. And so they are.
You're doing the exciting work, Alex.
Oh yeah, you know it. It's.
He's working in the fiat world.
Yeah, totally.
How do we get crypto content onto your platform, Alex?
That's a good question. I'll just think about that.
You can get us a meeting with the higher ups, right?
Oh, for sure.
But so, are you doing front end or what?
Yep. It's mostly just like product design and UI UX design.
Nice. Front facing or like for their employees?
Both.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I don't envy you your task, sir.
It's I enjoy it. It's fun. I get joy from making the boring mundane tasks like a little more pleasurable to do.
So, like from a design perspective, and you don't have to just be the NFT part, but as far as like the UX of crypto, pretty broken, right?
Yeah, I mean that's like I would say the primary, what's prevented, a mass adoption in any sense.
So, as a designer, what wisdom hath you for us, you, Alex?
Sorry,
tried my best Yoda there.
Say that one more time for me.
Anything? Who's doing it right? What enjoyable systems do you see out there? Well-designed stuff. Do you see?
That's a great question. In terms of any system, not just crypto.
Well, I mean, crypto here in particular. Go BSV if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Don't name any other chain but BSV, or your band.
Anything media or content related with a blockchain that you like.
BSV only.
He doesn't like.
The scene is that bad.
Okay.
Really,
okay. Any chain, Alex.
I think most of it. There's a large barrier to entry.
I'm just fucking with this kid so bad. I feel bad. He just like comes in. He's like, Alex, answer these questions.
It's good. It's good. I
what do you like, man? What do you see that's cool? That's all.
I mean, Relay. I enjoy Relay. I like Relay. I like Relay. I like Hand Cash. You know, both of those are.
Honestly, I think both of those guys have really, exactly, focused on UX really, really well.
Yeah. I don't, but still, like, my mom's not going to get into crypto. You know what I mean?
We don't know your mom. What would it take to get her in?
I think it would have to be. I think it would just have to be. You know, there's a lot of like prerequisite knowledge. I think that would require like someone's interest. You know.
Alex, have you seen Sushi Swap yet?
I don't think so.
Curious what you would think about that on a crypto UI UX level, because I think it's pretty impressive on a design.
Brian, I haven't clicked over yet. How different is it from Uniswap?
I'm actually just talking about the UX. Let me take a look right now at Uniswap.
Did they change the look and feel drastically? I just genuinely don't know.
I don't know how much it's been changed, but Uniswap, I can tell you right now, it looks like I'd rather, just again, design-wise, like UI, Sushi Swap's much nicer.
Oh, lovely.
I haven't used either of those yet.
I'll put a hold on a second here.
Maybe give us a link.
Oh, link, I can do it real quick. But you kind of want to.
I'll click over.
You kind of want to. You kind of want to play around on the side menu, like. It's just a clean, well done, especially for crypto.
Yeah, I find that a lot of these, the smaller like yield farming stuff, does. There's a wide range of attention paid to UI, let's say.
Yep.
Probably
Light
should
version. Well, what I mean is I see stuff, yeah, exactly. I mean, people experimenting all over the place. But differentiation-wise, Sushi Swap being, gunning for the king, so to speak, it's better, I think, that they put in the attention that Brian calls out.
Yeah, so you probably are talking about the site where it had the little icon of the chef and the main. Yeah, it's way different.
Yeah, I'm clicking around on mobile, unfortunately, at the moment.
Gotcha. So
the best experience.
Yeah, they actually still have Sushi Swap Classic .org that you can look at. It's a major change. No, I prefer the new one. The new one's fantastic.
Oh no, I was saying it's available if you prefer it.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that big info bar where they really did change this. Okay, yeah. So it's almost like an admin portal now, almost.
Yeah, it's basically your dashboard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool though. And I think like if you're, if you're kind of a boomer, I think it's pretty simple.
Oh, okay.
For that kind of bridge to cross. Obviously, I think Coinbase did a really good job. You know what I mean in terms of like I'm pretty sure I could hand Coinbase to my mom and be like, "Good, just go buy something," and she'd no problem.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But aside from that, like, yeah.
So do you and anyone, I guess, but do you guys think that there's like a combination to be had of sort of UI experience as well as the content where, like, it's got to be something that grandma wants to come to see, as well as be easy to interact with once she gets there?
I think it's going to take like
we need the Beanie Baby.
Like,
that's
well, yeah. Like, for example, like it would take something like it would be different for every 10-year age group, right? So, I think for a lot of people, Joe Rogan leaving YouTube. Now, okay. So if Joe Rogan left YouTube over like a censorship or over some kind of like he was displeased, like publicly about it, and didn't leave for a competitor, and left for a platform like a crypto based content platform, I think that would have done a lot for generation like X, right? I don't really know what for generation Y or Z or whatever the hell what comes next. Millennials, I guess. I don't really know what that would be for them, but like seeing someone like, I mean, as cringe as it is, Megan the Stallion or whatever her name is, seeing someone like her push, crypto in any way is going to bridge whoever's not on board. And at some point, like, if you're young enough, it's going to be very familiar to you because you grew up with it. But, like for the older people, they rely on, I think like an appeal to authority more than I think millennials do or Gen Zs do. So for someone who's older, like maybe in their 50s, they need their like favorite football player or like their favorite talk show host or whatever to like show the camera, like, look at this app I'm using now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
I think we're a couple generations away from humans breaking out of the. We'll never really do it, but as far as like, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it just goes haywire into like full on like anything a celebrity says like is kind of.
I mean, I'm fond of saying the spectrum expands in both directions. So you're gonna see everything. Yeah.
I think for like to get people on board, like I just think there's like a group that needs somebody to tell them, and then there's a group that'll do it.
Well, that's the purpose of content creators and producers, right? Is to be popularizer in that way.
Well, I think for a while there's a group, and I think this is with like most mediums that are new. It's like you're going.
That's the job, right?
Yeah, the contrarians will go first, and then the people that need to be told where to turn their head, they'll go second.
Sure. Yeah, and that takes time. I mean that takes time.
And persuasion. Like for the other group, it has to be like, like again, like back to like Coca-Cola. Like if the influence and the hold that a brand has on a culture were easy to break, like Coca-Cola would have broken a long time ago.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I wonder about like what the. Like, is it sensible to have a Don Quixote sort of mentality towards YouTube? How much tilting at windmills is that versus like I think many small platforms don't necessarily have that.
My hope is that it may be like a generation or two. Kids are looking at like what happened, what millennials look like in old folks' homes. And then what Generation Zs are looking like when they're in their 40s and 50s. And at some point, I'm hoping that a generation just like puts it down and like gets on a bike and they go and they hang out with their neighborhood kids because they're. But
will the NFT be represented on a blockchain?
I don't know.
Or excuse me, will the bike be represented on a blockchain? Excuse me.
I mean, the serial number will probably be hashed to a blockchain.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
But I do kind of, for me, like the hope is that like at some point, like these tools that are like computers to get information and these phones to constantly be in contact with somebody, they kind of get pushed, they get treated like tools instead of like life.
I think if we're lucky, to follow the philosophical rabbit hole, if we're lucky, I think what we end up seeing is that there are sort of safe eddies of what you describe, sort of within the larger fluid movements. But I think there's sort of no turning back at this point.
Well, I think you'll have a phone with you all the time, but the idea that you're constantly desiring to take in information from 10, 15, 20 different
platforms.
Applications, right? I think that desire will die out a little bit.
Well, I think some of us hit, not everyone. I mean, goodness, I'm sure there are people who mainline it, but hit a sort of natural biological limit. Where like, nope, can't do this anymore. Have to walk away for a little while. I do wonder about the generations raised on it and how normalized and natural.
I think those generations will raise kids, and then their kids are going to look at them, and they're going to see their parents.
The reaction there. Oh, okay.
Well, their parents are going to pay more attention to their cell phone than they are than their kids, and they're just kind of like how I think a lot of kids grew up with parents that worked for big corporations, and that these parents went in every day, and they were like, "I ain't doing that." And then we have this kind of generation that grew up, from the boomers and from the hippies, where they're like, anything's permissible. And so now those kids that were raised under an anything's permissible atmosphere, they're going to parent, and those kids are going to be like, and we're kind of seeing this already with the Zoomers, where they're like, no, anything's not permissible. This is ridiculous. And so I hope that the same thing kind of happens. Like, we get used to technology the way we get used to norms and mores, right?
Yeah, you hope that the pendulum swings back the other direction.
I'm just hoping. Right now, we've had smartphones for about 10, 12, 15 years. And we act like teenagers with them. When you're a teenager, you're not the best at sex. You can't really, you know what I mean? Things happen very quickly. And right now, we're doing the same thing with social media. We're like, oh my God. And we just open the browser, we open the app, we click on the thing.
We're still in the glow of the novel.
Oh my God! Just tap, click, push, and you can't do it fast enough. I think eventually, as a culture,
That's what I meant about the limits of biology. Yeah.
Well, no, I think young kids are biologically capable of taking in tons of this stuff.
Well, that's what I mean. It's going to take them longer to hit that. That's why I say I wonder.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they don't, that it becomes unattractive to them to live like that.
Yeah,
right?
Well, that's what I was saying. I cottoned on to what you were saying about, it's the response to that.
Yeah.
Where when it's, I can't help but think of sort of sci-fi metaphors where, it's so integrated that it's almost invisible. And yet you still lose people to VR. But, for many people, it's just, the tool that connects in, and that's what they do. And that they're still grounded, real world life. It's just that the other sort of parts of the spectrum have expanded for them rather than having other portions collapse.
I'm not well versed in Dune all that much. I know a little bit of the first book,
great.
But I think, don't they do something where in the history of Dune, they are basically just live luxurious lives. Everything's taken care of by computers and robots and things like that.
Yeah.
And there's a war. They go to
the
war
rebellion. The machine rebellion. Exactly. And so by the time it takes place, the story is actually taking place. They've outlawed thinking machines.
Right. So they just appeal. They just have really smart people.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they go get it. So I think that kind of that grand pattern. I hope that kind of is like a truism, I hope kind of get to this point where we, everyone is obesely overweight because nobody has to do anything. And then we rebel against that. Hopefully on a smaller scale, we see that. I think
there's a lot of places you can go with it. I've got hope for the future. I genuinely do. I think, regarding, some of what you're saying, I think a lot of it is generational. That there has a lot of this stuff is cyclical. and things build on other things. Like I say, it took me a second to kind of get the subtlety of what you were saying in terms of the one generation responding to the other.
Yeah,
but I see that. That makes sense. I mean,
if you're in your 40s, or if you're in your, I think I'm trying to make it good, 35 to 45, your parents didn't see porn on a phone. Your parents had
at all, right? Yeah.
Right. Your parents had to your parents saw porn most likely with other people in the same room watching a VHS tape. It's such a different kind of.
And there's disruptions to the common social fabric that have occurred all over the place with that. Honestly, it's funny because now that I've been sitting with what you were saying there, I think you're broadly right. I think other things will happen too, but I think broadly speaking, you're right. I know a few couples about my generation and older, who've got kids, and some of that inability to pull away, where I recognize, like I say, that they haven't hit the limit yet. Their neuroplasticity is so high, they're still going on that. But I also recognize, as they get older, there is a real desire. There's a recognition of the artifice of it all. And quite frankly, from what I've seen, and I don't have kids, but I know folks who do, and I know those kids very well. They equally, in their own way, feel lost. Because they recognize the artifice, but they're looking back to previous generations in a certain way, the boomers and otherwise, and seeing that, the artifice is sort of what we've got. And so I think there genuinely is a pushback towards, forgive I phrase it this way, earnesty, and a recognition of the real, so to speak. A bunch of other things will happen too, and there'll be a million other sort of fractal filigrees of odd little bubble culture, that will happen out from there. We're part of that. Crypto's part of that. But there's a dozen of them. A gajillion of them. And I think that you are seeing people still have those little bubbles, but also a real recognition that there's a world beyond that. I
think true crypto adoption might look something like where we aren't arguing about which chain you should use. It's just we all. Yeah,
I hope when I talk about this stuff, I don't care about chains at all. To me, they're tool sets. That's.
Well, I just mean you look on crypto Twitter and there are still people who insist on tweeting that this chain is the best.
Yeah,
chain.
Sure.
And it's like.
And Marvel and DC guys are loud too. You know what I'm saying? It's genuinely not that different. It's just that those guys have a lot of money. That's. Yeah, So, like I say, I'm happy to. I could talk bad things about Marvel and DC too.
It's interesting. I never considered cheerleading your chain. It is a brand.
Fanboyism.
It's a brand. Yeah, I never can. Because
it's that.
Well, it's because of what you're arguing. When someone gets up and they're like, "Listen, motherfucker, Craig Wright is goddamn Satoshi," and if you don't accept it,
to me, those are when I see that genuinely is people talking about wouldn't someone actually recognize Clark Kent if he had just glasses on? I'm like, dude, that is so far beyond the point of what we're doing here. It doesn't even matter. And I do sympathize. I genuinely do, because what those people are at every level are actually trying to do is build a culture, build meaning. I genuinely sympathize, even if I do, sort of look over and I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter that people would recognize him. It doesn't matter whether or not it's a total. Does the chain function? What does it do? Who is running the thing today? Is the comic still coming out on time? Is it any good this month? You know what I mean?
So I guess when we get to a point where, because you do not see people, maybe, and if you do, please correct me, but you don't see people going listen here, you idiot, don't buy gold, buy silver. When you get to a point where the thing that you consider to be valuable is so in the society is so used to it existing, you're just oh yeah, that guy owns a lot of silver, I own a lot of gold, who cares? That guy owns bonds. I don't see the kind of cringy arguments about like, why the fuck you buying bonds, bro?
Yeah, I think
have fun staying poor with your U.S. Treasury bonds. It just doesn't make yeah, and so that's why I never really gave the crypto community like the fanboy tag, which it is what it is. It's exactly what it is, which makes it so much worse. But
yeah, and it's more than that. You know what I mean? Just like I described, more will happen than just the down to earth, cultural reaction. The crypto community is far more than that. But I think a lot of what you describe, in that loud portion, is certainly, isomorphic in behavior, to traditional fanish stuff. I genuinely wish, there was more discussion of like, and even at the small scale, tiny portion of the world that I exist in, but at the broader scale of between chains and on, crypto Twitter and all that, I wish there was more discussion about these things, from a tool set perspective, from like, well, what can you do with it? Why would you do that? What's the choice set here?
Well, I think,
we discussed, I hear you guys talk about the Bitcoin braid. You know what I mean?
Humans whistle past the graveyard. You know what I mean? Like, sure. You can't bring up the stuff that'll destroy the thing you're talking about.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing is what it comes down to is a lot of this stuff is relatively similar.
Worthless.
Well, I mean, you really want to have the philosophical discussion, like where are we, what is worth, if you want to get into it. As far as on this level of people just exchanging tokens, and this is why I cared about mechanics. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, it seemed not as interesting to me. There were, and I come at this from a very different perspective, I think. And again, I exist in the small portion of the NFT art world on Ethereum for the most part. And again, that anti-fragility across chain I'm looking to spread. But all of this is so very loud in a way that it's almost easier to just try to find the corners of things where that real culture, where interesting things are happening, where there's a genuine bubble of folks trying to find that same down to earth stuff. I mean, it's the same thing that content creators of all kinds do. I do the art and whatnot, but the portion of it that attracts me is what I genuinely have a passion for. That's the stuff that I can talk about. There are people who genuinely have a passion for, the louder portions of things. You can find their shows. You can find those content creators. It's just that, whether or not, like I say, are you going to pull grandma in? Who are you speaking to? Is there a good, I go deep down the rabbit hole sometimes on this as far as like, is there a form content balance? So that the UX of interaction and the reason that the person is there, are interchanging with one another and reflect one another very well. It's what drew me to async. Is because I was like, oh, okay, this is real crypto art, rather than just like, an assignment, of an address where an image lives. Yeah. I mean, and so I think that those weird little bits of experimentation is where some of that down to earth culture ends up. So that, that's why I asked about tags, earlier on videos, is because those sorts of mechanical, and why I asked about mechanics too, is because those sorts of mechanical emergent sophistications, are what allow people to build their own little cultures and sort of, lifeboat out, of the larger scenes. Like I say, that's why I'm interested in those things. They're little, sort of representations of Cambrian universes, or what have you. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, all the little life growing down. And you try to support what you can, and you hope that and I genuinely think that there is enough room for everybody. Especially if we genuinely do embrace the sort of multi-chain. Oh, how does your tool work? Oh, okay, mine does this. Oh, okay, how can I learn from what you're doing? Oh, okay, can we? Oh, all right, we can collaborate like this, or at the very least, if we can't, we can respect how each system operates. We talk about where value comes from and where liquidity comes from and all of these things, and I see it in a very particular way on a number of levels. But for my part, I'm not too worried about people stealing my content, so to speak. But that's because I know I can make more. I know that no one can do what I do, and there's a bunch of people like me, of course. But it's about finding that, like River said earlier. What is your method? What is your motif? What is your particular interaction of form and content that you're offering? And you only find that through trying and iteration, through practice. And when you've seen the same thing come and go, a million times, especially if you're a young person, it's ugly and boring and stupid, and the old people are doing it. So offering new mechanics, new fun things, where they can express and where they can do their own stuff, is absolutely essential to restarting that cycle that you described, Brian. I mean, absolutely. So it's happening. It's happening.
What do you think happens to a culture when all of the things that you put on video or
tons of other feedback loops will occur. I'm focusing on the positive.
No, I think it might be positive, right? So, like, one of the things that, like, libertarians will, one of the things like gun advocates will argue is that if everybody had guns, society would be very polite, and you get some pushback right away. And then, like, if you zoom out on a time scale, you'd be like, okay, we'll give everybody a gun. There's a period of chaos where we have to deal with the fact that, like, everybody has a gun and it's new. Obviously, there's a carnage that goes on, but if you fast forward a century or two, and the rule hasn't changed, like every citizen in society has to carry a gun, and it's probably pretty polite once you get past the chaos, right?
I wonder about that. You look back at the Wild West, and people talk about gun violence there, and it's not. It's overrepresented.
I'm kind of just being very basic about it, like. But so if you look at it in crypto, where you start putting everything you can on chain, you're giving permanence to your thoughts, the things you say, and the things that you record yourself doing. And I think if you're going to be positive about the future, like a society where that becomes normal means that you probably get a society where people are very, very thoughtful about the energy that they put out. You know what I'm saying?
Honestly, I think some of that loop has started already.
I agree.
Oddly enough.
People have to start losing their jobs over being, at the Capitol or whatever, for people to start realizing that maybe you be careful what you put online. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that the idea. I think, like, people complain about the internet as being a toxic place, but. And
conscious is
sure, yeah. And my problem with the internet is that it used to be great. Now we all have all these new people that want to make it real life, right? And so if you just kind of keep extrapolating that out, hopefully what happens is that everybody realizes that one route is everybody goes anonymous, which I think is fine too. It's a different kind of chaos. But the other route would be, like, if everybody is identifiable. Because, again, most blockchains are typically, they're anonymous, but they're not, like, private. So, you think about it like that, like, in a couple of generations, it becomes normal to have the things that you put into social networks, they're permanent, and they cost money. Then society might become very, very, very thoughtful about all the things that it says and does.
I could see that as an emergent effect. I'm not so sure I see how we get there.
I have no idea.
Scott, what do you think about some of this stuff? Because you're spread around so many different networks that you have to be seeing some of these trends playing out in similar ways over time across them, no?
In terms of, like, people paying for content and it, like, lessening spam and things like that?
Well, sure. I suppose
that's pretty provable.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that, like, with, like, things like Twitch, and other similar platforms. But the problem is that what I mentioned earlier is, I mean, especially in the time we're in now, people are not looking to spend more money. You could argue, of course, anyone could argue that, they're losing money by, their privacy being sold, but you tell that to the average person and they're like, yeah, that's fine. I'm not going to pay for that not to happen. I don't think a lot of the average, like, Twitter user is going to be willing to start paying 10 cents every time they post. and I don't see that happening. In the other side of things, I see more people gravitating to these platforms that are, in fact, the opposite, where I'm getting paid for posting rather than I'm paying to post. So I think a lot more people are gravitating towards these types of platforms. At least that's what I'm seeing. And personally, I mean, I like getting paid to post. So naturally, I think a lot of people are sick of this old model from like YouTube, for example, where it took me 4 years to get paid. Whereas on these new platforms, like you can start get paid day one. And that's very encouraging and motivates people to actually continue using those and posting on there. But I personally do not see the route where everyone starts paying to use things. I just don't see the average person being like, oh no, my wallet's empty. Let me go and buy more of this and transfer funds in, all this stuff just so I can, post something.
What about advertising on those networks? Are you seeing that?
Yeah. There's a lot of networks that have either you use their token to boost your content, or so a few examples like Minds and Uptrend, they have proprietary tokens that they use to boost content on their network. Or you have something like Library, where I can stake LBC on my videos to boost their visibility for a certain amount of time. And that's another way to do it. And then you have platforms just like Cash, where you can just straight up spend like Bitcoin Cash to boost your content. So I do see a lot of advertising in terms of like users using like a promote feature, but not a ton from like enterprise companies yet. But I'm sure that will come.
I'm talking like banner ads and things like that.
Yeah, so I don't see a lot of that yet, but I think there is some. Like, I mean, it's very preliminary right now, but they definitely have ads on these platforms. But
are they internal ads, or are they sort of like external Google ad type stuff?
I think it's a bit of both. Like, I think there's platforms are playing with different like types of monetization and different ads. So like I was saying, like a lot of these platforms have internally, like where I can, do an ad, or externally they're like ad partners.
Yeah, I think that
that's better. Yeah.
I don't think we're going to see the death of advertising. I think that it just changes the mechanisms in terms of like, as we see.
Do you know what people are doing now on YouTube? Because like, have you seen where people now, like, they do like, like it's a 15-minute video, and instead of having like, YouTube run the ad automatically, they get their own sponsor, and then like 5 minutes into the video, they do their own little ad spiel.
Oh, for sure.
And then some people are actually just like, they cut to their pre-recorded ad, and they're like wearing different clothes.
Right.
It's hilarious.
Well, that's influencer marketing.
Still
right?
failure though.
There's a huge shift towards that, and I've been trying to get a little bit better informed about how the mechanics work for that and how the relationships develop. I don't think that's going to go away, because it's basically a workaround for monetizing your channel, the official YouTube way. And also, it's something that can be distributed across your social presence for, Instagram, YouTube, if you're video people, or photographic people, that you post to Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. Obviously, Snapchat, I think, kind of really kicked that off. That was probably the first place where I was really perceiving influencer stuff hitting properly, and then obviously, Instagram very quickly as well.
I think if you're quote unquote an influencer or a content creator, you should be making products and not ads.
What does
that mean? I don't care. Write a book, get a newsletter that has extra stuff, extra content that you pay for, t-shirts, hats.
That's more like a thought
whatever
than necessarily what.
I don't. That's all. It's all the same. If you're making content,
no, it's not the same.
And you're, excuse me?
It's not the same, because thought leaders are typically associated with a single brand or a company in a lot of cases. At the corporate side of things, they resemble an evangelist more.
Whereas it's terrible.
No, it isn't. That's what's been going
so
on for
horrible.
a long time.
My soul is dying.
Well, that's what's been going on.
I understand. The world sucks. I get it.
The influencer side of things, which is very much like
vomit. I want to vomit on Partyline.
You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be.
No,
healthy.
we're talking about the difference between a thought leader and an influencer. All I'm saying is that
is there a term for if you have if you do both? If you have.
I think if you make a content well enough, you might influence somebody. But calling yourself an influencer is cringe.
Oh, it is.
No, I'm just asking Mike for the cringe term of combining them.
I just don't mean yeah.
But I think those two designations do occur.
Point being is I think if you're either of those people, if you're like an Instagram model and your whole deal was like, I'm selling someone else's product, right? Well, you were popular before you were selling that handbag. Otherwise the handbag company wouldn't have come to you. So in my opinion is if you want to foster longevity, don't sell yourself out by doing these cringe little, let's order from Direct Fresh today so you can stay in your keto diet. Just make a product and don't make any ads. Because my favorite YouTuber, if they make ads, I'm blocking them. I'm blocking your ads. As long as an ad can be displayed on a browser, I'm going to block it. Period. And so and frankly, there's more of me than less of me going on. You know what I mean?
And that'll increase.
Yeah. And then here's another thing is as trends move faster and faster over time, cringy, stupid advertising marketers, their ability to keep up with the trends is going that. I'll use one of our favorite word. The difference in time between the trend and the ad is going to grow and just become it's just you're at a point where advertising is annoyance, and it's and you're right. It's going to be a long time because I still get the pamphlets in my mail of the coupons that I throw out.
Right.
The minute I get them. I've even taken those things and stuffed it back in the outgoing box, and the mailman got mad and put it back in my mailbox. It's crazy that you can't, that's how much you can't avoid advertisements in the world. All I'm saying though is that if you want to be a content creator for the long term, I think, and this is me mainly as a viewer, not as a content creator, right? You need to get your own thing together and do less ads. And the goal, I think, for any content creators would be no ads, and that if you're going to monetize,
do you see a world where literally every single person can have their own monetized brand in that capacity?
No, totally not. Never. Nobody's interested. Not even I can't imagine 25% of the world being interesting enough to have their own brand.
Even 25% of the influencers, perhaps.
I can't believe 70, 80, 90% of the influencers exist right now. So, I mean, most of them are just hot, right? Most of them are just you're hot and I follow you to look at your pictures, and I don't care if you're a man or a female. And frankly, I think for many of the female influencers or advertising vessels, there's advertising. I mean, they are literally just for example, TikTok, right? If you're not hot, you're not popular on TikTok. It's not that you're interesting. There's nothing interesting. They're all the same person.
Right.
So the Charlie girl, her more attractive sister,
I have no idea who you're talking about, but that's fine.
And all these little TikTok, neither do I really, but here's the deal. They're the same person. There's nothing different about their content. They're just hot.
Ultimately, correct.
And one has a deal with Kentucky Fried Chicken, and the other one has a deal with a car company, and another one has a deal with Samsung. But they don't have those deals because they put out interesting content.
Right. They're just spokespeople.
They just it's softcore porn for your phone, and it's geared towards kids.
Fair.
That's all it is. And so the idea that everybody is going to have a YouTube or Twitch channel where we're all just sending money to each other because we're all looking at each other's cleavage, I don't see that. And I especially don't see it if we're looking for valuable information that's interesting, engaging, and thought provoking. That's like 10. I mean, look at television, right? If you take, when cable TV came out, it blew up. 10% of that stuff is actually like intelligent, engaged, and interesting. Like a lot of it's filler. Why does it mean that like a lot of those channels like exist? Because a lot of like shows on TV exist because they're like subsidized by larger advertising pools from the main show. So like, that one show at like 11 o'clock in the morning on Discovery, that show doesn't make any money. No one's watching. They piggy bank off the nighttime 8 to 10 slot. And I think that if you extrapolate that to like everybody just kind of having their own thing and they're doing their own like show, there's not enough hot people or interesting people to make that work globally.
Did you just coin the phrase piggy bank accidentally instead of piggyback?
Sure. I'll take it.
Yeah, I think you did. River, where can we expect Streamanity to go this year in 2021?
Don't expect too much this year, honestly.
You heard it here first.
When is the piggy bank protocol being enacted?
Piggy bank protocol on BSV.
We have so much more going on, and I would really love to dig into Streamanity, but honestly, we have so much more to do, especially the first kind of half of the year. First 2 quarters, it's wallet. It's we have a couple of kind of secret things happening underneath the table at the moment.
Go ahead and drop them.
Streamanity is definitely no. Jack will kill me.
Basically, we should expect lots, but it's all secret.
Yeah, basically, cool. Yeah. But yeah, Streamanity. I would really like to get into it in the next kind of end of the year. After these first 2 quarters are over. Let's see how we go, though. A
lot of year left.
Yeah, there is indeed.
What is some of the, as you're working with that platform, what are the favorite things from users over there?
I mean, it's the revenue share is the biggest thing I think that we have. Our most innovative feature is certainly that kind of instant revenue share, which is really, really amazing. So basically, for those of you who don't know about it, is you can go into your settings when you upload a video. You can choose whichever person, whoever has a pay mail, basically, you can do a revenue share with them. And so every time someone pays for a view, the amount that is paid is individually split, divided by whatever percentage has been allocated to everyone who or appeared in the film or who worked in the film or in the video or whatever it is. So that's probably the best feature of Streamanity at this point, I would say.
Very cool.
Any last thoughts or concepts? Because we've been going for 2 hours, and I assume people are going to want to head into the rest of their day, but I'd love to hear any last closing ideas or just points that you wanted to make but didn't get a chance to.
As far as the NFT thing goes, watch for those smaller, bleeding edge experimental projects that, exactly like Brian said, have the mechanical interactive part. That's I tweeted recently, reveal mechanics so hot right now. There's a lot of that stuff being done. There's real cool stuff. So it's out there. You can find it. I'm working on something similar at the moment, other than trying to keep an interactive comic going. Have illustrations turned out for another platform. I'm working on a thing I'd love to come back and talk about sometime as well later in the year. Big plans for the year as well. So super cool.
I meant to say this earlier, but there's been a little bit of backlash about Moo Rat Pack using Michelangelo's creation, right, for this thing, because it's not his original content.
There's that guy. I mean, he part of his artistic, just as a final thing here, part of his artistic sort of thing is to be a little confrontational, a little Banksy about it, to just be broad.
He's done such great stuff, though, that it seems...
No, exactly. I've got no problem with the guy.
What happened? Is there some drama? What happened?
Okay, so there's
lots of drama surrounding that guy. There's all kinds of fun things he's done like that.
Who are we talking about?
Murat Pak, the guy behind Archilect.
Yeah.
So he
what did he do?
He had a new project that's basically you buy tiles or you bid on tiles, and these tiles were all part of an image that would make up what is essentially God giving life to Adam, right, from the system.
Not his art.
It's not his art.
Someone else's art, sure.
Right.
Okay.
So the argument is that like
his now.
It's the performance that you're paying for, not the actual image. Because you could go get the image anywhere.
He's done this before. This is the thing is, and all of this, in the art world, this level of like confrontational, like Andy Warhol did this.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So all of this stuff, it's part of why, like, to me, he's just playing the hits. You know what I mean? He's just playing the hits to a new generation, and he's real good at it, and he's earned. In my personal opinion, he's earned the right to do that. Let him do that.
The thing with him, he's so huge, and he's done such great original stuff that when we see him playing a cover song live, it's people expected more. I think.
Yeah, if he was all sure, you know what I mean. But he's having fun, you know what I mean. I see him poking at the scene, you know what I mean. A while back he sold. Goodness, this was a while ago. He sold for, at the time it was 99F, which is worth a lot now. Just a clear PNG, like nothing was on it. This took no effort. Like he opened up Photoshop, saved the file off.
Right.
And that's entirely performance art. And personally, I'm not going to pay for that. But I'm not required to enjoy it. You know what I mean? I'm not required to pay for it to sort of look at it and go, oh, look at him pulling everyone's, strings a little bit there. I see what's going on there. All this has been done. I see he's continuing the dialogue. You know what I mean? About what is art? What is ownership? What is cultural legacy?
Sure.
All of these things. And yeah.
Scott, tell us, some closing thoughts, where people can find you, or what you are going to be headed into for 2021 that is important people should know.
I think I already did my most valuable piece of content on the 2nd or 3rd of January, which was my comprehensive review of all blockchain integrated and crypto monetized platforms, of which I went through 170.
Yeah.
So definitely go check that out. And I also had a little blockchain resources thing linked in there, and you can check out all the resources, and pretty much everything that you could find related to that stuff is all in there. So that's probably my most valuable thing I'll put out all year. I hope to make a few more guides for different platforms like Brave Browser, MetaMask, a bunch of different things. Just a bunch of like education content. So pretty excited. You can find me anywhere under @ScottCBusiness or crypto and things, and basically on every single platform as well. So,
sounds like it. Well, this has been Partyline Chat. I'm going to kill the stream now. Thank you for joining us. Obviously, the people that are in here, you don't have to leave. Sometimes we kick around and talk shop a little bit afterwards. Thank you for joining us, and we will talk with you most likely next